kidding about the sacrifice, aren't you? I asked weakly. It's going to be like the night before last, isn't it? You know, sex and all that. The scene before me told me it was definitely not going to be like the night before last. The Indians gathered here were brooding, their eyes seemed filled with visions of the past, when their ancestors had claimed all this land named Mexico in the name of Montezuma their king. They were garbed in dark serapes, their garments under those big shawls were decorated with feathers and with necklaces of bone. Human bones? The men carried wood and clubs from which jutted sharpened stones, like the war clubs to be seen on the wall paintings which depict the lives of their ancestors. This was a grim group. There was no fun in their lives, at least not at the moment. I could read sullen pride in their features, a slight touch of fear, a hushed sense of waiting. There will be no sex this night, said the Don gravely as he urged his bay forward onto the plateau, down a sloping dirt path. My gray mare followed, with me swaying easily in the saddle. I may have been loose in the cack, but the rest of me was uptight. I didn't like the look of things. So I swung down, when Don Miguel reined in, half expecting the boys in black to pounce on me and heave me up on that altar. But the Indians ignored me. Their hard brown faces were expressionless as they watched me pick a path beside my host to a flat stone resting on two smaller rocks, like a crude bench. It was the place of honor, reserved for the Don. I sat down beside him, just about ready for anything. The sky was turning red, the color of fresh blood, I thought, in my moodiness, and that redness seemed reflected in the flat and lean faces surrounding us. It was like they had smeared their features in blood. Man. Scary. I waited as patiently as I could. Then I heard a soft, low droning. It came to me after a moment that this was the voices of men chanting. With the voices I heard the faint boom of drums being played upon softly, with rhythmic fingers. There was a procession coming from the south. I could see the red torches flaring in the gathering dusk, smoky wisps ascending skyward. It was smash stage work. The voices, the drum, the smoking torches gave an added weirdness to the scene. The Aztecs around me were impressed, grunts rising from their throats. Each man stood like a bronze statue with the wind ruffling the feathers on his body and blowing the fringes of his serape. They were as turned to brown stone, only their eyes were alive, glittering and proud. These men were seeing a page from their past come to life before them. As the Aztec priests had escorted victims to the altars of their gods, so these descendants of that proud people were staring at their modern-day priests coming in a funereal walk between the tall torches, chanting an ancient dirge. The drums muted, grew loud, again they muted. It was great stagecraft. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing in response to that chanting, to the drum beats, to the impressive sight. By craning that neck, I could see something else there, between the marchers. It was a stretcher, decorated with feathers and with human bones. The stretcher held something long and mounded on it, covered by a ceremonial garment decorated with green jade discs. I had seen pictures of discs like that, found in a tomb in the temple of the Great Jaguar and ceremonial building in Tikal, Guatemala. I relaxed a little. There could not be an Indian man or woman under that decorated robe. It was far too large to be any Indian. Heaps of food, piles of sacred vessels, of copal to be burned as incense, were under the blanket. Don Miguel leaned close. His eyes glittered with an odd fanaticism as he breathed. The sacrifice to Quetzalcoatl is to be performed by the Nacon, the high priest selected to make it. He is the tall man in the feathered headdress which, incidentally, is an exact copy of the headdress worn by the officiant 500 years ago. He will use the ceremonial stone knife. I gulped. The stone knife. We are looking at a page out of history, Miss Drum, Don Miguel whispered, his voice excited and elated. This is how the Aztecs offered up their victims. It is true that they borrowed the right from the Mayans, but then they borrowed almost all their culture from their neighbors. I could not tear my eyes from the jade-decorated robe. The priest would not use a stone knife to stab an offering of vegetables or vases. sacrifice would require a blade like that. Sweat was forming under my armpits and trickling down my sides. The procession was almost at the altar. The acolytes were thrusting the tall torches into the ground, 3 on either side of that huge stone altar.